Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik with Figure It Out Productions. The following video is part of our Quick Shoot series and is intended to aid the Dreamcast and gaming community.
A package for the Sega Dreamcast. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Adam here. I've got, obviously, a package. This comes from Turkey. There's something in here for the Dreamcast. I'm going to go ahead and open this up, and we'll talk about it. We have a couple of things. We got, ooh, bubble wrap. Undo this. Inside we have this. This is the Hanzo. So what's the Hanzo? It's a VGA box for the Sega Dreamcast. Now, if you're not familiar, VGA is a video format. You probably recognize that pinout. That's VGA. It's a type of format largely popularized in computers in the late 90s and the early aughts. It's still around, though it's mostly irrelevant today. But in short, the VGA is the ideal way to get the best video quality out of the Sega Dreamcast. The Dreamcast supports a 480p image, which in 2014 might not sound impressive, but you have to remember, of course, the console came out in 1998. And to this day, man, it still astonishes me how good Dreamcast looks in via VGA. And almost every single game on the console supports it. There's like 20 games that don't out of the nearly 800 game library. So if you have a Dreamcast, do yourself a favor. You're going to want to get a VGA cable or VGA box such as this one. If you're using anything else, you're doing yourself a disservice. If you're using RF, Composite, S-Video, or even RGB SCART, you are degrading the image and you should stop that immediately and get something like this. Basically what games like that have to do, like all games except for those like 20 or so, run at a full 480p. That's how the console renders them. And then when it's time to display them, if you're using anything else, it has to downgrade the image and output it that way. So I don't recommend that, because why not get the best image quality out of your console? Which is, of course, where something like this comes in. So basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to test this out and give you guys kind of a review of it. I'm excited about this one because, like I said, it comes from Turkey, and this is actually made by just one dude. And I think that's really impressive. And it's got a bunch of features on it that are pretty cool. And I can't wait to try it out and tell you what I think. Alright, so I've been using this for a while. And the short review is, this is really good. You should definitely buy this. It's really, really nice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over some of the individual features and talk about it. And I'll talk about any criticisms I have and, of course, all the positives, because it's mostly positive. If you want to follow along as far as like close-ups and stuff, I have included a diagram in the description. It's a PDF. You can go ahead and open that up and take a look, and it'll show you like up close like what everything is and what all the switches do, and you can read more in detail if you're interested. Alright, so taking a look at it like this, there are multiple switches on this thing. There's 4 of them, and they do a lot of different things. This switch here above the RCA jacks, which I'll talk about in a bit, is a really cool bonus feature that I've never seen in any other Dreamcast VGA box. It's basically, it illuminates the image or decreases basically the color depth more, which is weird. It's a customizable option. It's not necessarily something you would ever need. It's just to help you with display settings. It can make, basically in short, it makes the image brighter or darker depending on your preference. Now this is a surprising one. That I love when they do this, but it doesn't get enough credit in general. So I'm going to give it credit. There is an LED on there that lights up when it's connected to the console and it's powered on. Now, why is that important? Well, VGA is kind of a fickle format, and it can stop working on any TV or monitor for any number of reasons. And I can't tell you how many times, not only me personally, but I've gotten people who send me emails like asking, like, how do I get this thing to work? There's something about the back of the Dreamcast, like its AV port, where you need like a really solid connection from this to the Dreamcast for the box to work. And a lot of people think that they're having any number of issues. Point is, if the LED is on, you know that the VGA box is working and it's connected properly. It eliminates all of those potential issues. It just gives you peace of mind, and I really like that that's there, because a lot of VGA boxes don't do that. Now on the other side, this is a feature that's going to get a lot of people excited. I don't really care about it, to be perfectly honest, but I want you to know, because I know this will help a lot of people go like, oh yeah, that's the one I care about. It has a built-in scanline generator. Now, a lot of people swear up and down about scanlines. They love them. They think they're the greatest thing ever. Personal preference, I think scanlines look really bad. That's just me. You can love scanlines, it's whatever, but it's just me. I never really thought scanlines were particularly good looking. But it does have that function built in. You can turn it on and off, of course. And then on top of that, they took it to the next step, made it even more customizable. The middle switch actually customizes the width. At least I think it's the middle switch, or maybe it's the top switch. Point is, the top two switches control scan lines. One activates it. You can look at the diagram yourself. One activates it, and one controls the width of the scan line, so it can look thicker or thinner, depending on what your preference is. So again, very customizable, which is very nice. And this bottom switch there is, to me, is the neatest feature. Alright, so I told you there's like 20 or so games for the Dreamcast that don't support VGA, which is unfortunate, but about half of those can actually be force booted into VGA. And the way I've always done this historically was there's a disc called Codebreaker, which is like a cheat device, kind of like Game Shark. You could pop that into your Dreamcast, it would boot up, and then you'd take it out and put in the game, and then start it up, and it would run in VGA. This actually bypasses that problem. You basically run it in RGB mode, and get to a certain point, then you switch it over to VGA, and bam, you're good to go. You're running the game that way. So, like I said, this thing will make your entire Dreamcast collection look phenomenal. Run them all at 480p. There's only 20 that don't work, and of those, about half of them, this thing can get past it and make them work. So there's very few games you wouldn't be able to use with this device. Now, on top of that, here's a criticism actually. Sort of. It's like a half criticism. On this side, you have RCA audio out. Now, that's a positive or a negative depending on your setup. In my case, it's a negative because my setup was obviously, when you see VGA boxes, typically when you can't get audio out of VGA. You have to get it through either RCA or 3.5 millimeter. Now, like every setup uses 3.5 millimeter audio. So that's what my system is set up for. So having RCA audio out on board doesn't do me any favors. I need a cable like this. This is an RCA to 3.5 millimeter adapter. Now I had this lying around, so it's really no big deal. So I just connect that, bam, I'm all set. Audio quality is great. But of course, if your system is all set up and able to use RCA just right from the get-go, then you're all set right there. That's awesome. And that I'm sure it's a bunch of sound files will tell me like why that's a better thing. So I just wanted to acknowledge it. If you only have 3.5 millimeter, you will need this. Now, this thing has another neat feature that I personally am not going to take much advantage of, but any number of people out there might think is great. And you might have noticed this other thing that came with it. This is a breakout cable. For this. What makes this unique on top of the scan line generator and all that other stuff is that you can actually take off this part, the part that's dangling here for the Dreamcast, and you can connect this, and this actually will function as a scan line generator for any other number of things. Basically, at that point, you have VGA input. So if you have anything that has VGA output, whatever it is, like an Xbox 360 is capable of VGA output, you can connect it through there, or a PC, or whatever you want, and run it through there, and you can actually use this as a scan line generator for those devices and those consoles and PCs, whatever. And I think that's a really neat concept. Again, I don't care so much about because I don't really like scan lines, but I know a bunch of you just went, ooh, yeah, because people like scan lines. So there you go. Now, the device has very high build quality, which I really love because I like products that are reliable. But also I like that somebody is supporting the Dreamcast by making good hardware. As of late, Dreamcast, the only new hardware it really gets is like some mediocre third-party controllers and a lot of VGA cables, because VGA cables and boxes are in high demand now because people are realizing like, damn, the Dreamcast looks good when it has that, and I want to move it onto a more modern setup, so I should get one. So a bunch of cheap, like, Chinese mass-produced, built-in-a-sweatshop piece of crap cables have been coming out. One's by like Racket Boy, and there's like this white one that I've seen people do reviews on where I just want to facepalm them for buying it in the first place. Have been getting those, and I don't know why you would do that. The logic, I guess, of getting it is that they are like $30, 20 to 30 bucks, so they're the cheapest. I get that part. The problem with them, from everybody I've talked to, is that they lack the box part of it. And that, of course, eliminates all the potential features it may have, which is, to me, crazy that you would get rid of that much. But also, the box helps with compatibility. There's a lot of TVs and monitors, even though they support VGA, that will simply no longer support they will not support the Dreamcast native output, and things useless. The box tends to help with that. So that's worth factoring into your decision. The other part of it is that, and I can speak to this one in personal experience, is build quality of the cables themselves. You know, they tend to have very piss poor, shoddy construction, and they don't last very long. You know, I've bought cheap Chinese like HDMI cables, and they'll last like less than a year, even though they're just connected, they're never touched or anything, they just die. And people I've talked to who bought those, a lot of them say like, yeah, I bought it and it died on me from nothing. And of course they can die from just, you know, being used and being bent, you know, whatever, it happens. This does not suffer that problem. This is high grade, and this is just, like I said before, man, this is made by one dude in Turkey. And that's, or it might be two guys, it might be brothers, based on their website. That would actually make sense. But the website is Behar Bros. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that, but I'll display it there. Yeah, man, this thing is high build quality, and I'm sure it'll last a really long time. Everybody I've talked to who's had this for a while says it's great. They've never had any issues with it. And of course, the video quality, I guess I should address the obvious. Yeah, the video quality is great. It's perfect. It looks exactly like the ones that I got by Performance, the ones that were relevant in the late 90s, early aughts, those.
Just thought I'd take a moment to compare all of the different video connection formats that you guys can see firsthand what they all look like, except of course for RF, because that's a complete waste of time. Now when you look at Composite versus S-Video, the difference might be kind of subtle, so if you really want to see it, go back to Composite and look around the word Capcom. You'll see a lot of like fracturing, and then when you look up to S-Video you'll see that that's gone. Of course that's because the color is separated from the contrast. Now of course you see RGB SCART, and the difference is obvious. I mean, it's an explosion of color, which is nice, but it's a little too much, though I think it's a very good second choice for the Dreamcast. And then, of course, you go to this, VGA. It looks flawless. All right, now the color is obviously not as... It's very controlled. It looks accurate, frankly, to me. And the resolution is doubled, which is phenomenal. And then you can see it when you jump back down to Composite, how different that really is. Again, now look at the word Capcom, and you'll notice like little fracturing around the word, around the letters. Now watch this. Bam, gone. See, it's important to use better video formats, and of course S-Video isn't even close to the dominant format for the Dreamcast. So I did this mostly, I wasn't planning to do this originally this way, but I did it because I felt like, I've never seen another video on YouTube that compared all of the various formats, and a lot of people swear up and down that RGB SCART is the way to go, and while I do love this format for a lot of consoles, I just would not recommend it to the Dreamcast when you can see this. Look at that. That is absolutely amazing. Hands down, though, any game that does not support VGA on the Sega Dreamcast, RGB SCART is the way to go. So get your hands on a Dreamcast VGA box, preferably the Hanzo, because it's the best one out there.
Really, to me, what sells this thing is the build quality, and frankly, the price is very reasonable. You know, if you look at some of the other high-grade ones that exist out there, you have to look at the ones by Performance, the ones by Sega, etc. Those can be like $80 to $100. They'll give you really good video quality, and they'll give you the good build quality as well. But they don't give you all the features, and of course they're extremely expensive. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have those cheap Chinese knockoff pieces of shit that I would never recommend to anyone. And shame on you if you ever bought one of those. It's very limited. I don't know why the hell you do that. But this is right in the middle. This gives you easily the most bang for your buck. It gives you the most options. And the price can vary depending on which version of you want. This one specifically is known as the Hanzo. They make like 4 different versions. That come with more or less features. Like, you don't have to get the breakout cable. This was actually, in my case, was just included in as a bonus. Yeah, based on what you get or what you don't get, if you want, you know, it can go between like 40 to 60 bucks. And I think that's an extremely reasonable price compared to the others. Like, you know, if you're paying 30 for the piece of crap ones, it's worth conceivably $10 to maybe $20 upgrade to get all of this for something you know is going to last for a really long time. And of course, it's also worth, you know, not paying like $80 to $90, maybe even $100 for the name brand ones when you can get this. So, yeah, man, I highly recommend this. The only, I guess, flaw with it is that, like I said at the very beginning of this, it came from Turkey. Now, Turkey's a really cool place. I'm not knocking that. But the problem with it, of course, is just the location. It takes a long time for it to get anywhere. Maybe if you're in Europe, it'll get to you quicker. It took about 5 weeks for it to get to me in the United States. which is, I wasn't in any rush, of course, but I just want to make sure that you know that this could take a little while to get to you and not to panic. It will show up, and it's worth the wait. It really is. It's much better than any of the cheap Chinese ones out there. And yeah, man, I gotta give you, like, save for this one potential audio flaw, I gotta give this pretty much a perfect rating. Definitely worth picking up if you're into the Dreamcast and you're looking to get VGA. People ask me all the time, which one do you recommend? I recommend this one, the Hanzo. Definitely pick it up. Website's right there. You can check it out in the description as well. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all later.